If you've ever been excited by a big goal, the idea of changing your life, you can see it, exactly how you do it, and then you realize how long it would take, how much effort would be involved, and you feel that motivation just sliding away despite yourself, this is the episode for you, because big goals need big strategies, and we've got them for you. Welcome to Ask the Experts, where each week we talk to people in the industry, get that inside word on what's happening right now, what that means for the tactics that you should use to make the most of your money. Now, I don't know about you, but the word retirement can make me immediately glaze over. It takes at least 30 years of effort, and frankly, I'd like to live my life now. But even dial it down to a slightly more immediate goal, something like becoming financially independent. That can still take years and seem pretty far away and demotivating. So if we've got a big goal, something that should be exciting, how do we stick with it in order to get that big reward eventually, not burn out along the way? Well, Lisa Butler, financial advisor at EnableMe, has got that inside word for us.
Making Sense has partnered up with EnableMe to get you the strategies for reaching financial freedom faster. Whether you're wanting to get mortgage-free or grow your wealth through investments, they've got the team to help you. Head to their website to learn more. Visit enable.me today.
Making Sense is on a mission to make money simple, and I just couldn't do that without the support of KiwiBank. It's really important to me to only work with companies that understand that mission. And for KiwiBank, their purpose is to help Kiwi and Aotearoa be better off. So bringing you real stories of different approaches to finance is one of the ways they're making a difference to the lives of their customers. This is making Kiwi better off. This is Kiwi. Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much for coming on. I got to say, this is one of those for me. I feel like our brains are not designed to be thinking years in the future. Every time it's something that's big and exciting, it also often takes a long time, and I can kind of lose my hope along the way. Why do you think something like retirement or financial freedom can get overwhelming so fast?
Hi, Francis. Thank you for having me. It's a question we get asked a lot. How do we motivate ourselves to keep going? Can be a huge, scary mountain to climb to get to retirement when you know it's so far away. We're all living busy lives. We've all got things that are going on right now, family, house, kids, all of those things, and work as well. And it's so easy to just push it to the side.
Yeah, do you think there is? Do you notice this when you're talking to clients, that if you've got a goal that's going to take a bit of time, and often like those big ones do, the ones that should be exciting us the most, you then have to put a timeline on it, and it feels a bit further away. Do you see your clients' faces change a bit? Does it then become winding back and you're like, okay, and let's get excited once more?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really tough to imagine yourself in that position. And I think we just need to bring it back to today. I think make it real, make it for people to imagine themselves in that position right now. If we're retiring tomorrow, what does that look like? And what would we like to do, rather than thinking about it way down the line? Or another really cool one I've used with clients is, what are your parents doing? Do you like the way they've planned for their retirement? What are they able to do for their retirement? And is that how you'd like to be able to live your life? And I've had clients very recently actually who've said, oh, my parents haven't got any money and they can't look after their house the way they'd like, and it's going to rack and ruin because they haven't got enough money. So I think we need to be thinking and making that really real right now, so that we can get advice on how to build a plan to be able to achieve that, so that we've got a bit of a timeline and a process to get there.
I love that. It's about making it more real and actually being able to see yourself in it. Do you know, I actually read a study a little while ago, but they did a study with these virtual reality avatars. Like, people would put their own pictures in for the study, and then it got aged up. And then they'd put on like literally the virtual reality like goggles and interact with themselves as an older, aged up person. And then after that, they did a before and an after of like asking them financial questions. And they were so much more willing to make some sacrifices for the future, because then they were seeing themselves as getting older as more realistic. It's so interesting, isn't it, how we need to make it realistic, because actually not to get grim, but it's a bit like the idea of death, where we don't necessarily want to think of it happening to us, but getting older hopefully happens to all of us, and these things will happen where we need to plan for it. Is how do you make it more realistic for people? I love that idea of talking to people about their parents. What else do you do to make it more realistic for people?
Make it something that they can touch and feel. So talk about, if you retired today, what would you want to do? What would you want that to look like? So would you be wanting to travel? Would you be wanting to still work a little bit? Once you start thinking about those things, you can start thinking about what you're actually going to want, and that's going to make it less daunting because you've got something to aim for. When you kind of bury your head in the sand and don't do anything because you're too worried about it and you're overwhelmed by it, it's really easy for it to become a really big problem. It's a huge myth that we need lots of money to grow wealth. We need money. You need to be rich to be able to start planning for the future. But small steps are absolutely the best. Doing things over a longer period of time makes a huge difference. That's how you can get the benefits of compounding interest, dollar cost averaging, which is where you buy things at different prices along the way. So your KiwiSaver contributions, for example, all makes a big difference to get you there in a much better way than just panicking at the end.
Love that. Okay, so set a goal, decide sort of what you actually want. Maybe you're someone who wants to travel a lot in retirement. Maybe you don't. Maybe you want to be able to live next to your kids and be a super active grandparent. Maybe you still want to work part-time, but definitely not full-time. All sorts of different goals for retirement. All of them are good. It's what works for your life. But once someone has set that goal and said, this is what I would like, how do you work backwards from there and make those goals more achievable? And like you say, break it down into those little steps. Eat that elephant one bite at a time.
Absolutely. I was just going to talk about an elephant. That's so funny. Yeah, we're on the same
Took the words out of your mouth.
on the same wavelength. Great. So yeah, I think breaking it down is awesome. And you've got to be thinking about, the average retirement, is we've got 30 years to plan for it. If we're aiming for 65, we've got a long time to be thinking. Some people are thinking in their 20s and 30s, what am I going to be doing? And so they've got a long timeline to plan. So small, little incremental savings investments are going to really reap benefits for them. If you're in your 40s, 50s, heaven forbid 60s, which is quite often what I see as well, then there's still lots of things that we can do, but we just need to understand what the goal is and then to work backwards from there over the timeline that we've got and to make a plan to be able to achieve that over that timescale. So yeah, the people who've got longer will obviously be able to be a bit more slightly more casual about it, or not quite as aggressive about their strategy. But someone who's a bit older might need to be really tactical because they've got 10 years to go and they've got to make every day count.
Yeah. That must be tricky, right? Because it's always that thing I say, when you're young and broke, that's actually a fantastic time to be looking at your money, because you've got time on your side. You can do a lot with not very much money. Whereas if you're seeing someone who's coming to you, as you say, in their 60s, the timeline's really short. Is there much people can do if they've left retirement planning that late? What would be some immediate steps there?
Oh, absolutely. There's always things you can do to improve your situation. I think there's strategies around, have you still got debt? Because the first key thing you want to be able to try and secure is that you're going to have somewhere to live when you retire, without having to necessarily pay rent. Or if you're going to be paying rent, we're going to have to fund that. So how do we do that? But if we can get a mortgage-free home, that's our ideal scenario. So if we've still got a mortgage, let's put a really clear strategy in place so that we can pay that down really fast, so that we can retire. But also, apart from the mortgage, even if you're in your 60s, savings at that point. You can still be getting free money from the government going into your KiwiSaver. You can still be thinking about managed funds. You may still, if you've got 5 or 10 years, you may still be able to benefit from investments like property as well. If you know you're not going to need all your money as soon as you're 65, if you've got some money saved away, and you might be able to wait a little bit longer to cash in a property or something like that, that does give you a little bit more of a timeline as well. We don't need it all at 65. So there are certainly things that we can do, but it's about understanding the timeline that we've got and then working our strategy out accordingly.
Yeah. I think that's really important. You can always at least make it better. If you do something, it's going to be better. And like you say, there's so many levers you can pull. If you pull a bunch at once, then you can build up some little things that actually add up to big things.
Not so fun fact, when you take on a 30-year mortgage, you'll probably pay more than double what you originally borrowed because of the cost of interest. That's probably not the Kiwi dream you bought into. The team at EnableMe specialise in taking charge of your money and growing your wealth, including how to get rid of your mortgage faster. Book a consultation with an EnableMe financial advisor today by visiting enable.me.
Life looks different for everyone. Maybe you're buying your first home, growing your whānau, dreaming of travel, or simply trying to stay on top of things. Kiwibank has the tools to help you manage your money your way. Find out more at kiwibank.co.nz. This is making Kiwi better off. This is Kiwi. Okay, going back to this idea of the long-term goals and how we make them feel more achievable. We get ourselves on that track, we stay motivated. What do you think? Should we create like milestones or checkpoints along the way to help us celebrate successes as we go? How would we do something like that? Is that even a good idea?
Yes. Let's create some milestones and checkpoints. Totally. We're all humans and we all need motivation to keep going. So it's really important when you've got a big goal, when you've got 30 years to be doing something, or even 10 years, that's still a really long time. When clients work with us, for example, we have annual targets for savings and mortgage or debt repayment so that we know if we're on track, and we break that down into quarterly and monthly targets as well so that everyone's really clear about what we're trying to achieve. We can track against that and we can see the progress as well. So we know if we're moving in the right direction, and we can all celebrate when we do well, which is great. And that helps keep the momentum going. So we're more likely to keep things going over the longer term. It's a marathon, not a sprint at the end of the day. So we want to be able to do it for a very long time.
Yeah, I'm so with you. Like literally, even I was talking about my goals with my husband recently, and we want to pay off our mortgage early. And there's so much you can do once you're not having to pay that household cost. You get so much more freedom. You can take more risks because you're not locked into that debt that you have to pay back every month. And we were breaking it down and looking at what we were going to do. And it's the exact same amount extra that we're putting into it. But in our goals, we broke it down into a weekly amount rather than a monthly amount, just because it made us feel happier. It just for some reason vibed with us better, and breaking it down into a weekly amount instead of monthly. And I don't know why, but whatever, it works. If I have to treat myself like a child to keep going, I will. Then hopefully I'm mortgage free.
Totally. Psychology plays a huge part, and we need to play into that as much as possible to get the benefits that we want out of it. So if you're triggered by being able to see it very, very regularly, weekly targets, awesome. Some people are less interested in that and look at the monthly target or the quarterly target. Great. Let's work with that because we want to make sure that we're ticking your boxes so that you can achieve what you need.
What about for the clients that you've worked with? Are there any sort of memorable stories or turnarounds you've had from clients when you've introduced this sort of mindset change of breaking down the bigger goals in order to stay on track? Is there anyone that springs to mind of things they've achieved by changing this mindset?
I've got lots, Frances, but we haven't got time. So my favourite one of my favourites is a couple I worked with. It's 10 years ago now, but I've worked with them for most of that time. I'm middle-aged couple in their mid-40s. They emigrated to New Zealand from Canada, and they arrived and came to see me shortly after that. They'd got jobs, but they didn't have a house, didn't have very much in savings. Their first priority, because they had kids, was that they wanted to buy a house so that they could all live in somewhere with security. So we bought them a house within a few months, and they had a 30-year mortgage on that, which was officially going to take them into their 70s. The second thing we did after they'd got into the house was that we looked at their retirement, and we were working out what they needed to be able to live the life they enjoy. And we worked out they needed about $700,000 at 65 that they didn't currently have, that they wouldn't be able to find. So we looked at all the investment options for them and decided that investment property would be a really good way to go. And we secured them 2 properties, which would help them grow some wealth to bridge that gap, that $700,000 that we needed. So over the years, they repaid that mortgage within the 10 years. So they're mortgage free on their home now, and they've reduced the loans on their investment properties as well. So now they are cash flow neutral, so they don't have to fund them at all. So they have much more flexibility about having to work because they don't need that extra income to cover those costs. And we're growing that capital gain through those properties, and we're going to have more than enough to cover that $700,000 when they do sell those properties ultimately. So, and because they're not even 65 yet, they're in their early 60s now, they can retire early if they want to. They can help their kids if they want to get on the property ladder themselves. So none of which was possible when we first saw them less than 10 years ago, when they walked in with empty pockets and nothing to show for what they'd been doing, because they'd only just arrived. So a really cool story. And yeah, one of my favorites.
I love that. What's the old thing? I know I say this all the time. People who listen to the podcast all the time are going to be so annoyed that I'm trying to say it again, but I say it because it's true, is that people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what can be achieved in 5, because that's a stunningly fast turnaround. That's brilliant. Look, if someone is listening and they're feeling a bit behind, or they're still feeling like it's all too much, but they'd like to be like that couple who turn things around pretty quickly, what's the first thing you'd tell someone to do today?
Start thinking about what you want to achieve for the future is the first step. So get a picture in your head about what you'd like your retirement to look like, and then get advice, because it's hard to build a plan on your own. Get an expert to help you with it, so that you know what you need to do, so that you've got a strategy. If you keep doing what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always got. So we need to change something to be able to get a different outcome.
Love it. Hey, thank you so much. That's Lisa Butler from EnableMe. Now, if this episode was helpful to you, firstly, make sure you've hit subscribe wherever you're listening, whether that's Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, wherever. Don't mind, just make sure you hit subscribe, but also send it to a friend so they can also smash those goals alongside you. Let's all get better with money together. Until next time, have a great day.
Just a note before you go, this podcast can only give you general information about how things work in most cases. It's not individual financial advice. We're all different, so some of this might not apply to your specific situation. Take what works for you, ignore the rest. If you're after individual financial advice, a financial advisor is always the best bet.